Hi, everyone. Welcome back to She Blurbs Podcast. Today's guest is Kym Vincenti. Hi, Kym.
Hi, how are you doing?
Thank you for coming on my podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name's Kym Vincenti. I'm an author, a writing coach, a ghostwriter. So I'm a full-time writer and a part-time yoga teacher. um, my sort of passion is writing is words. And I've done that my whole life. And then I turned it into a career later in my life. Um, and what I really love is when I help a client with a book, it's like I'm helping one person, but reaching thousands through them. And I think that's really cool. So I love what I do. But I like to balance that with yoga. So I went to the Himalayas about 5 years ago to yoga school just because I felt like doing it, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, which is why I do the retreats. And all the people that come on my retreats that I teach yoga to and energy healing and, those things, I ask them to then take that away and pay it forward. So, kind of spreading it as much as I can.
Wow, that's awesome. So, when did you first realize you wanted to be an author?
I would say when I was a child, I spent, the whole of we call it junior school. So when I was young in junior school, I was that typical bullied kid. So I used to spend all my time in the library. My friends were in the books and the stories. I'd get lost in the stories. And that was really important to me. So I always grew up a wordy person who loved stories. And it just seemed inevitable that I would write books, not even as a career, just because I would do that anyway. It's part of who I am.
Oh,
Writing for me is like breathing. And I think I started with poetry around about 10, but my poems were my way of dealing with the world around me and what was going on, so I could pour it all out into words because I couldn't make sense of it. So, it was just a way of making sense of the world around me.
oh, okay. That's nice. So, what inspired you to write your book, Write to Feel Better?
So I've been a lot of years on this planet, like your grandma, you were telling me. And when you've been around for a while, you have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and you've made a hell of a lot of mistakes. So you kind of come through the other end, which makes you wiser. And I had quite a lot of childhood issues and trauma. And I know that a lot of people now in their adult life, they carry these things forward. So the things that affected them or damaged them, if you could say then, they brought them with them into the future. And those things, they don't even belong to them. Like somebody told you something when you was a kid, you're not good at this, or that's not right for you, or you can't do this. And you accepted it, you believed it, it became part of your belief system, but it was just somebody's opinion. And
Yeah.
you've carried that for years. So now you've got to do the work to identify what that was, and then you need to get rid of it. And one of the best ways to do that is by writing it out, because it's almost like unraveling a puzzle. It really makes you think about why you have these confidence issues now, why you're terrified of public speaking, or why you're terrified of going on your own to a party or something. A lot of these things come with us from childhood, and it might have been a one-line sentence from somebody that told you, and it's stuck in your head. Like, negative language is like a virus. It burrows in there and it just stays there, just waiting to trip you up at the worst possible moment. But the thing is, you can get rid of that. You don't have to keep it there. But first, you've got to identify. And that's what the book is all about. There are exercises in there. There's some very thought-provoking questions. There's a lot of logic. And I talk about self-belief. One of the simplest examples is, those pop star programs, X Factor, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
So have you ever seen someone step onto the stage full of confidence, absolutely owning their power, and you think, wow, they're going to be great. And they sing, and they can't sing a note, it's awful. But they totally believe that they can. And it's a belief, because when they're, their whole life growing up, they've had amazing support from the people around them who said, you're amazing, you're fantastic, you're wonderful. Here it is in here. They are wonderful and they believe it. So when a panel of experienced judges say, oh, no, thank you, they're like, what? What do you mean, no, thank you? They totally believe it. Isn't that wonderful? It's wonderful. But it's not true. And they're going to go through their whole lives thinking they're wonderful, which is a great thing. How lovely to feel like that. But the opposite can be true. When you were younger, if people weren't particularly nice to you and they put you down or you were bullied, then it's the same thing when you're older. You're carrying that with you.
Exactly. And I don't think my mom understands that. Like, she needs to take a lesson from you, like to not talk down to people and stuff like that. Like, she needs that lesson.
Yeah.
So can you give our listeners like a brief summary of your book, Right to Feel Better? Like, what do you call them? Like, what kind of things do they have in the book that helps people?
So there's some exercises, some explanations of how to do them, and how how to go through, how to really think about it. It's not a 5-minute thing. It's a dip in and out book. Some of the exercises you do over the course of a month. There's one that you actually end up with a book of your own. There's various letters and stuff that I prompt you to write, and then there's some questions there's blank pages in the book where you can write the answers, and it almost makes like a map or a chart of you, and you begin to really understand why you think like you do, and how actually that doesn't belong to me, so why am I carrying it? So it's an eye-opener in that respect.
That's good. That's really good. Because another guest I had on here, she was speaking about the same thing, and I was like, why do we have those thoughts in our heads? Like, when they do come in our heads, why do they stay there? Like, that's my problem. Like, why?
It's all down to us. We have the power to get rid of them. But it's how you just need somebody, when somebody says something to you and you go, oh my God, that's so simple, or that's so logical, why didn't I think of that? It's that, because we're too close to it ourselves that we don't see it for what it is. We just carry on with those old patterns.
Oh, okay. So what inspired you to become a yoga instructor?
Oh gosh. Well, so I've always done some kind of sport. I used to dance as a kid. I did ballet and tap and acrobats and gym and all that. So I've always been kind of flexible. And then, like years later, I damaged my Achilles and I put on quite a lot of weight. And because I damaged my Achilles, I couldn't do any sport or anything. So I thought, oh, I'll go back to doing yoga because they'd done it when I was younger. And literally, I was doing 3 lots a day. I just kept a mat by my bed and I do like 10 minutes 3 times a day. And sort of, I was watching myself week by week, like going like this. Obviously, I was watching my food as well. And I was thinking, I'm really enjoying this, And what it was doing, when I was doing sport, obviously, you're kind of building muscle. But with yoga, what you're doing is you're elongating the muscles. So you look more elegant, I guess, and I thought, I'm going to take myself on a retreat. And then I looked at retreats, and I was looking in India because that's where it started. And it was yoga teacher training courses. And I thought, while I'm going, I might as well do that. So I just booked on one of those, and it was one of the best things I've ever done.
Wow.
Yeah, it was in like what would we call it? Like a raw setting. There's no frills or anything in these yoga studios. They're very basic. And you are doing from 6 o'clock in the morning, you're doing yoga continuously over and over and over and over again, wow. Yeah. And like for hours, and you're learning you do sessions during the day where you learn anatomy and physiology and what the words mean and where it comes from. But what you find is when you go and do something like that, the rest of the world goes away. You completely hand yourself over to that, whatever it is that's going on. And it's just amazing, because how often in life do you get cut off from the rest of the world and give yourself that time for yourself?
Mhm.
You really don't, because there's the phone's going or the door's going or something is happening, somebody's interrupting you. But when
Mhm.
you do something like that, you reap the full benefit of actually working with your own body and your own mind and your own spirit. So it teaches you a lot, not just about the movements, but how everything else works, how it all fits.
Nice. So, what do you enjoy doing when you're not writing or doing yoga?
That's interesting, because I'm doing both of those things all the time. Last night, actually, I went to a friend's house, and it was a group of women. It was a gathering with a group of women, and nobody really knew each other. But when everybody's on a similar wavelength, and we were talking about health and longevity and spirituality, and it was really nice. So I like gatherings. My birthday's coming up in August, and I just like to go over the park with a group of friends, a guitar, a drum, conversation and food, just hanging out like you used to as a child, when there was no agenda and no pressure, and you could just be. Yeah, I like doing that.
That's fun. Wow. I wish I had friends. I don't really have very many female friends or friends at all. Like, I have one good friend that we just went to the bookstore because it's my favorite thing to do. So we
The
went to the
bookstore,
bookstore,
the
but
bookstore. You don't have many friends.
no, I don't.
I
I mean,
never
I
used to
have
have.
online like book friends, but that's it.
I never used to have when I was younger. My friends were in books, and it is really hard. You do kind of feel separated from the rest of the world sometimes. But I think, what I would do if I could take my time back again, I would focus more on the things that I was really interested in, as opposed to trying to fit in somewhere. Because when you do that, you kind of then tend to meet the people who are on your wavelength and who like the same things.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna try that.
Yeah, and if you like the bookstore, that a lot of bookish people are sort of like me, and like you, really, they don't have loads of friends because their nose is always in a book. But if you're hanging out at the library, or if you're in book groups, is there not? Why don't you set up like this book club? Have a book club. They're great.
Yeah, true, true.
See who's
Oh,
in your area that likes reading, and set up a book club. Who knows who you'll meet?
ooh, yeah, I might do that. I want to thank you so much, Kym, for coming on my show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. Really nice to talk to you.
You too. You have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to my interview with Kym. If you would like to purchase her book or take yoga lessons from her, I have her website linked below, and you can just go check out what she does and a few of her social media pages. I hope you all have a great day, and thank you all so much for supporting my podcast. Have a great day.